of my uncles used to make posters for the wrestling matches, the luchadores, the masked guys, and I remember going back there and seeing him actually do the hand lettering and cutting out the letters and putting them all together and gluing everything in place with, of course, you know, I'm not going to say the name of that one uncle, but of course then he'd be like, "This glue nice," you know, and so, you know, he always had fun doing that. And but then we'd go down, he took me one down to the printing place where they shot the negative and the whole thing. So I think that's kind of what drove me towards a more graphic sensibility of art initially, as far as visual arts go. But, you know, I mean, my uncles were musicians, my mother was a singer, my actual father, he is an arts educator. He was going to, when my mother and my real father met, he was going to college learning to become a ceramicist, and he ended up teaching that in high school in the town where I live. He kept track of me for years, but I didn't know him till I was like in my 20s. So yeah, that's kind of the nugget of where it all starts from. I think any artist would be lying to say that music doesn't have an influence on their visual art, that visual art doesn't have influence on their music, that a great piece of literature can influence both of those things, or they all influence each other together. Creativity in general, I mean, it's like that energy put out there. It's almost, I think creative people, it's like we're sponges, and anything else that's creative around us, we just take it in. And you don't have to be a musician to take somebody's music and make it part of your art. You know, there's a lot of what I do visually, which I think this is going to sound weird, but very influenced by David Bowie and people like Brian Eno and things like that. And it's because of their sense of aspects of reality and how to turn them upside down and have us look at them in different ways. So that, and let me throw and I would throw Miles Davis in that same picture too, although he's, you know, before the two others that I mentioned. But still, jazz had a big influence on me growing up. My parents listened to it a lot. So I think the freedom of expression of music had a big import on me visually. And, you know, and that's probably how I ended up in experimental types of music in my 20s, because to me it was like it was like I always running around in my head and I was trying to figure out which one to do next. It can make you very scattered, and as you can tell by my you know, it's like sometimes there's too much going on in my head, and so I have to settle down and do one thing in particular. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I will go through, like I just recently did a whole period where I got back into my music and did some recording with some people, and but while I was doing that, I'm also writing and I'm also doing visual art, but I let one have more emphasis for a while. It gets back to the last question. All of those two other ones are still influencing the music while I'm doing it. And like now I'm back, I think I'm coming out of well, I'm starting to go into a writing phase again, because I find myself thinking of things in a literary sense again. It's kind of like a carousel in my head. Occasionally I'll get on the horse, sometimes I'll get all set on the bench. Another time I'll ride this, you know, the dragon, you know, whatever. Just it still keeps going around. It's just I sit in different places. You know, I spent my 20s and my 30s trying to fathom and work through all that I didn't have a parent to go back and talk to about. You know, like a lot of us, we can go, you know, in our 20s, hey mom, hey dad, you know, I'm thinking, you know, and they can give you, well, son, you know, they can give you that. I didn't have that, so I was constantly going out on a limb, trying to teach myself something. And I'm amazed I'm alive, to be quite honest with you, because there's a lot of situations that, man, I look, I'm like, geez, what was I thinking, you know? And But I'm here now. So all those mistakes, there's a lot of them. Hundreds. At the time, it was like, what was I thinking? What a mistake. Now, I look back on it and I think, you know, if I hadn't have done that, I probably would have done something like killed myself or something. It was like, it was my way of trying to find myself after my mother died. And at the time, yeah, it was. I shouldn't have done a lot of the things I did. Shouldn't have treated people the way I did. I shouldn't have done so much drugs. I shouldn't have, you know, blown so much money. I shouldn't have spray painted on the walls when we were losing the house, and not get back my, you know. There's like tons of things I shouldn't have done. Those were, in that point in time, they were mistakes. But in hindsight, they were the most appropriate mistakes I could ever make. And they have a lot to do with who I am even today. Creative people are real people. Yes, we can be a bit crazy and a bit loony and a little and considerably self-consumed. But you know, if anything, it makes us, our self-consumption makes us more fragile, because we're easily, because we get so passionate about something, we can miss real obvious, you know, things, and can run directly into a wall, you know, fly off a cliff in chasing that one passion. I want things to challenge me or other people. That's got to be it primarily. I like things to make people's jaws drop. I like them to assume something about a piece of mine and let them assume it for a long length of time. Oh, you know, that's just a sexist piece. And then it's not, because it's not my place to tell somebody what I meant when I created, unless they ask me directly. Because, you know, all art is, once you put it out there, you have no control over what people are going to. So as far as like pushing the envelope, you know, that's relative to the individual who views it. I'm sure there's people who see my work and go, "Oh, that's boring." You know, I'm sure that happens. You know, to me, the envelope is for me to put something in and mail it back to myself. The unknown is the rush and the arousal of things for me, and my intent is to haunt you with yourself.